I think the big difference is how particular cities and mayors and councils and firefighter unions handle those situations.
Yeah, as most of the listeners will let them know that we just left the mayor's office, had a great conversation with him and Chris Hand, his chief of staff, and again, just really get to know one another. It was a unbelievable mayor's race that we were involved with, so it's we're looking forward to working with the new mayor. He's a great guy to talk to, and hopefully he'll get the city going in the right track. Obviously, this budget was something that we like to see in some of the decisions that he made, so hopefully we'll do a lot better. What about you, Mark? What do you think about the new mayor?
I just think just the last couple of weeks, the whole air around City Hall and in government, everything that's going on lately has been real positive. You're starting to see people that from different walks in the city, and everybody's doing what's best. It looks like they're doing what's best for the city, and everybody wants to participate, and there's just a real good vibe, and I like it.
I agree with him. It's when you walk through City Hall, and now there's a time that people uncertainty with jobs, things like that, in city government. But government workers are really the core of this city. Make things happen. Pick the garbage up. Fires are put out. Safety is a big part of their job. So hopefully the mayor will keep that going, keeping this city a vibrant city, one that is should be growing. Obviously, in these economic times, it's tough to get us going in the right direction. But hopefully, this mayor will be able to do that job. Larry, I know you cover. Larry, you cover. Basically, the southeast when deal to firefighters or other cities seeing kind of the same situations that we're in here in Jacksonville?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. South Florida particularly hard hit. Over the years, most of those cities have chosen for a variety of reasons to tax at the maximum allowable rates. They've had a lot of fees. Mm-hmm. They've built some very large governments, and it's sort of catching up with them. Jacksonville's not quite in that situation, but it's a recession, and it's going to affect everybody. The fixes are not the repairs, whatever you want to call them. They're not going to be one size fits all kinds of things. What one city may find itself doing, the other one will not.
All right, we got our first caller, Bob, line 1. What's your question, Bob?
First of all, thanks for what you do for the public. I was a public employee in New York before I came down here. My question is this. I had heard that they were going to try to make it that you had to be a city resident to work for the city in Jacksonville. They tried that in New York in the 1970s, requiring all the firemen and policemen to have to live in New York City. Went through the state Supreme Court in New York and was thrown out. I just wonder what you thought about it.
Yeah,
I don't think it's anybody's business where you live personally.
Yeah, there's two.
All right, thank you. I'll listen on the radio.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Thanks for your call. Again, if you have a question, 904-854-1320. Back to Bob's question, there is some legislation going through now through City Council about requirements to be live inside Duval County before you can become an employee. I think it's all new hires. They're not going to go back and make everybody move. But there's some different viewpoints on that. Larry, what do you think? I know you've went through this before. Larry has as a past president of the Jacksonville Firefighters. That used to be an actual law, didn't it, Larry?
Yes, it's come and gone a couple of times, and Bob describes it pretty well. It's problematic in recruiting. You narrow down your recruiting pool, and then you want to ask the public officials, the council members who support this, will this also preclude recruiting executive staff people from wherever else you may get them from? It strikes me that it's generally been more problematic than it has been helpful for any city that I've seen it used in.
The other side of that coin, again, I kind of know some of the mindset on that is that if you're going to be an employee here, you're going to pay taxes here, and it goes back into the budget. Mark, any ideas on the ideas of what you think about the living inside Duval County?
I actually was part of that growing up in New York City. My father was a New York City police officer, and up until '82, we had to live inside the 5 boroughs. And it wasn't until June of '82 that we got to move to the suburbs.
Oh, okay.
And so I have a little bit of experience on both sides.
Yeah.
It can go either way. Some people just like to be out in the woods and do their thing and come in. For us, when we're do 24-hour shifts, so it's a little bit different for us than the average person.
There's some problems also that with schools, having a little trouble with our schools now, people moving in. So, there's arguments both ways. Next, I got another caller, George from Arlington. George,
hey guys.
Good morning, good afternoon. How you doing?
All right. Understand lost 41 policemen. Did you guys lose any?
Yeah, I think there's about. I think in the budget we're supposed to lose about 30.
About 30, I had two questions. One, I'll get back to that in a second. Galveston, Texas, Bortz keeps talking about the city employees are making twice as much now from investments in the stock market and other things when they retire as what they were making when they were in the city. Have you guys checked with the people out in Galveston and see what they're doing?
No, we have not. Explain a little bit more. You're saying they're making double? I'm a little uncertain of your statement.
Yeah. Their retirement income is just about twice what they were actually making when they were working because they invested in the stock market.
Okay. We have a defined benefit plan. I don't know what Galveston actually has, if they have a DC.
Yeah, but what I'm asking you, just give them a call and see what they're doing.
Yeah, sure. We have, as Larry has spoken up, he is our 12th District Vice President for the International Association of Firefighters, and he has a lot of contacts all around the state, and he's a great resource to us to see kind of how everybody else is doing business and, some of the good and some of the bad that come with it.
You had one more point. If
sure.
You can hold me over.
Okay, we'll get him on the next segment. We'll take a break. If you have a question or just a comment, we'd love to talk to you. It's Talk Radio 600 WBOB. Call-in number is 904-854-1320. Again, a bunch of firefighters in the studio today. It's probably be the last time they'll invite us, but again, thanks to Chuck and Colleen for letting us come, and we'll be back in just a minute.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Hey, thanks for being back with us. Again, Chuck and Colleen are sucking up a lot of sun down in South Florida. They'll be back Wednesday, so if you want to tune in, then make sure they're back and they can answer some of your questions. But again, you have your Jacksonville firefighters in the studio today. And Bob, I want to get back to you. You had another question. I'm sorry, George, you had another question?
Yeah. Clark Howard also confirmed that number. It's one I gave it to Hank Madden, which was $40 a week, 7% interest, put it into stuff like gold and Exxon, et cetera. You end up with $1 million by the time you retire. That's normal working life. But you guys work how many years to what you retire a little earlier, right?
Yeah, our benefit is set up at a 20-year pension with only about 60% of your salary. No health insurance in that, no Social Security. So we it's been out in the media that it's we got these lucrative pensions and all these things, and it's just really not true. It's fair value for a long, very physically demanding job. Protecting the citizens of Jacksonville. So George,
a lot of firefighters, I think, start small businesses after they retire, don't they?
It's becoming a lot more difficult. That is few and far between anymore. It's we got a few out there that hustle hard, but when they're starting a small business, they're still working 56 hours a week in the fire stations, and then out another 30, 40 hours a week. Out in the private sector, so it makes it very difficult working 120 hours.
We need the banks to Obama and the banks to lighten up on the loans, to make it easier to get the loans, get the economy going, and the regulations, and I think we have more people starting businesses.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen. Hopefully, this mayor too will do it too. Let's move on to Mike on the west side.
The other thing was that I'm in the energy business, and I'm figuring if we gathered trees here, old paper mill land trees, we could be in the city we're involved. We could eliminate all taxes for people here.
You ought to go buy JA. Why don't you go buy JA if you know how to run it? That'd be a good idea. All right, let's move on. Thanks for your call, George. We appreciate it. Mike from the west side, you have a question?
Yes, sir. I wanted to see if what you had to speak towards the previous mayor. He came out with projected budget shortfalls for next year and 2-3 years down the line, and he seemed to harp on pensions and how they play a role in this, and we're $60 million short, this year, and 5 years down the road it was going to be some astronomical number, and he kept hanging his hat on that pension reform. And I mean, how has this gotten so out of control? And the way they're putting, I don't want to call it their spin.
Sure.
Is it a reality? Are we looking at this shortfall, based just because on pensions, or what is it?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Good question. We've, I think last time I was here, we had just about a whole segment on the pension aspect with Chuck and Colleen. There's a great website out there, truthaboutpensions.net, and it really lays everything out for you, gives you great facts. So, Mark, any comment on the pension side of it? I'll give you a little opportunity.
No, just check out the website. Website is very detail-oriented and providing facts, not just rhetoric. And it tries to get rid of all the politics out of everything and just say, here's the truth. This is what happened. Yeah. This is where we are. Yes, there are pensions across the country that do have problems, and they need to be addressed, but not just because the pension's bad in this city doesn't mean that all the pensions are bad and evil. And we need to stop taking words like that and degrading them and making them bad, because it just makes the situation worse. Okay, exactly.
It's kind of promises made, promises kept. When you sign up, you're offered a benefit package, and that's where it is. I know our pension fund and the pension trustees are already looking at changing the benefit structure for new employees. I think they've come their part. Now we're just looking for the city to come their part. There's a lot of history that really affects how our fund its shape is in now, and the funding of it. Larry, you've been around a long time. Give us a brief history of why we are where we are when it comes to the city side and what they've done to the pension.
Well, as you explained, it's anybody with any concern for their future always looks at the pension. One of the first things I always point out, because so many public officials are younger and citizens, is the pension survived the Great Depression very successfully. Probably because there was less inflammatory language about it. It is certainly one aspect of the things that the past mayor and the new mayor have had to look at. In and of itself, it's probably not, it doesn't rate as one of Jacksonville's most serious problems, as Mayor Brown has consistently kept saying. Jobs are where he's focusing. And if you made the whole fire department budget go away, and that would include salaries, pension, the equipment costs, all of that, the entire fire department budget is about 10% of the city's budget. So, I mean, it would be an absurdity not to have a fire and rescue department. Every city, small and large, has some. So, I mean, it is something you look at, but I think taking some of the inflammatory language and trying to get back to the real situation and getting it back funded, and of course there were a decade or more when the city did not make any contribution. I've heard one broker, certainly a conservative, at a conference say this: when cities did this, it was kind of like Bernie Madoff kind of stuff. They took employee contributions, and as you pointed out, Randy, city employees in Jacksonville, firefighters and police officers at least, are not eligible for Social Security. They don't pay it. They have a major offset. And so the city took contributions and just did not make their payments into the fund itself.
Yeah, and some of that also is where the payments came from. There's some history about using reserves to make those payments and not coming out of general fund. And we're talking in the mid-'90s when tax revenues were really high, everything was going well, and may have been somewhat of a contrived crisis is what this is. And it's a nationwide issue. Obviously, Larry covered in many states we do, and Mark, watching everything across the nation. It's an issue that's not just here in Jacksonville, but again, the pension fund is, I think, at about 14% rate of return right now. It's coming back, so we're doing well. Let's move on. Mike, thanks for your question. We'll move on to Peter in Lakewood. You got a question?
Hey, Randy.
Hey, Peter.
Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I just wanted to thank you guys personally. I heard one of you guys say you're from New York, and I just wanted to...
Actually, two of them. We got Larry and Mark are both originally from New York.
Well, let's just send out a prayer to the 343 we lost on 9/11, and then the countless number of servicemen since then. That's brothers. So just thank you for that. That was my comment. My question. I've got another quick comment just on a previous caller, Bob. You mentioned that I always hear him just hacking away at socialism. Not that it's good, but and then he said, I just heard him say now that he used to work for like a government, and I don't know. Just to me, it seems hypocritical because I believe what you guys do is a form of that in any case. But my question was. Just to, what do you guys think about where are we going and our future of the city, as well as, I don't know if you care about that Riverkeeper, but about the, the pipeline coming from Georgia.
Yeah.
They're maybe running a waste pipeline.
Yep. Yeah. Being the jobs we are as a president of a large labor organization, and Mark and Larry being directly involved with it, it's, we don't just look, everybody thinks that labor is just, only worried about the workforce and don't care about anything else, where we're going, where the city's at. We got to look at everything. We have to, what shape is the city in, and what can we do to help progress the city, back into prosperity. And and Larry mentioned that the mayor is banging about jobs, and that's really where it, that really helps.
Good jobs.
Yeah, good jobs, high-paying jobs, and so it's not necessarily about what the worker can get, and and damn everything else, and we're going to move forward. And so, Mark, go ahead.
One thing I think that separates firefighters from other forms of city employment is the fact that when we sign on the dotted line to join the fire department, we commit 20 to 30 years here. So we're going to raise our kids here. A lot of our firefighters, they now work in the neighborhoods they grew up in. So we do have a stake in where the city goes 10 years down the line, 15 years down the road. So it's real important to us, not just areas of firefighting and public safety, but all walks of life as to where we're going.
And it changes, obviously. You got like city administrators that come in, go as the wind blows, coming in, coming out. And so, yeah, we're committed to the city, knowing that, we want to live here, raise our kids here, and obviously keep it healthy, because that's where our pay comes from. We buy cars here, we buy homes here, we pay taxes. That's a lot of people want to believe that all we are is a drain on the economy. Well, we're actually a big part of the economy that we can, get some revenue into it. So, Larry, any other comments?
Yeah, we enjoy for what is a labor organization, probably not as traditional as many other unions. We enjoy a lot of support from a lot of the business community. And Mike, I believe the caller mentioned socialism. And the fact is, we are supporters of the free enterprise capitalistic system. It has provided the United States with the best compensated firefighters and medics in the world. And we certainly want business here to be prosperous, wealthy, and doing well, because it's always been to our benefit. When business is good in Jacksonville, things are good for us. It's that simple, and we do get that, and we understand it.
Yeah, it's been a spin here, especially in the national politics of how unions are horrible. They're going to break the country, and it's really based on we're the average working Joe out there, and fair day's pay, for a fair wage, and that's all really working for us. So, and we understand the sign of the times that we are in somewhat of an economic crisis. I think we're coming out of it, and hopefully this new mayor will see. I think you can see in his budget that he's already kind of understand that, and hopefully things will be looking better. I know there's some things out there nationally with this debt crisis and things like that is that's looming out there that we'll see. I think just look the market's down a little bit, so that may have some influence into where the economy's going, but hopefully we can get out of it. They can get all that stuff done in Washington, D.C., and we can move forward. So, Peter, any other comments real quickly? Is he gone? Peter's gone?
Yeah,
okay.
Peter's gone. I retired him early for you. I wasn't sure.
So we'll, again, if you have any questions for us, any comments, it's Talk Radio 600 WBOB. Number's 904-854-1320. Hurry up and make your calls, because it's probably the last time we'll be invited here when you got conservative talk radio and you got a bunch of labor guys in the room. But again, thank you to Chuck and Colleen for giving us this opportunity. And we'll be back in the next segment in just a few minutes. Again, give us a call. Love to talk about anything. Hey, welcome back. Chuck and Colleen are a little small vacation, and you have Randy Wise and Mark Triglio and Larry Osborne with you. Let's go to a couple calls waiting on us. Line 1, Saddle from the west side. Got a question for us?
Hello, Randy.
Yeah.
Y'all mentioned about you're all messing with your pensions, you're getting lays off, administration is messing with y'all.
Yeah.
They made notice of what y'all do for your charitable organizations around town, like you see you all on the corner for MDA and a bunch of other stuff. Could y'all touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. SAD. That's a weird name, but SAD. But anyway, Mark, tell us a little bit about how Mark runs our little charity arm of the firefighters. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, in August 2009, we had started to realize that we've always done charity work, but we decided to start a 501c3 charity called Jacksonville Firefighter Charities, and all it's done is open a lot more doors for us. We probably do $350,000 or $400,000 a year in charity work, just helping people pay electric bills, turning on the heat for people.
Where does most of that money come from?
It comes from firefighters.
Oh, okay.
Every 2 weeks on payday, firefighters payroll deduction, and everybody puts a couple dollars in. Some people put $1 in. We have a firefighter who donates $50 a pay period, and it is Firefighter Charities accepts no taxpayer money to do any of the work it does. It's powered by firefighters on their off days, as well as with their own money. And we do take donations, but
what's some of the biggest stuff coming up here for the charities, firefighter charities?
There is always our number one charity, which is the Muscular Dystrophy Association. You'll see Jerry Lewis on the Labor Day telethon, and we'll give out a check to MDA this year for roughly $55,000, $60,000 in that neighborhood, and then we'll also hold another boot drive, Florida Georgia Weekend, which we'll reach out to the public and raise more money, and it goes to help less fortunate children get wheelchairs, flu shots, leg braces, and help them through a real tough time in their lives.
Well, good. So if you come Florida Georgia weekend, I know normally you see years ago it was Labor Day. That's when you saw the firefighters out with the boots. And Larry, how long have we been doing that? MDA's been a huge
MDA. The International Association of Firefighters established a relationship with them in 1954.
Yeah, so it's been long, one of the biggest charities. And Jacksonville, we changed up a few years ago, moved it to the Florida Georgia weekend. Obviously, a huge weekend for the city of Jacksonville, and seems like that it has done well for us. Our donations have gone up, and again, that's really back to the citizens of Jacksonville and the visitors that are coming in for the game. That they see a firefighter on the corner, and they're always willing to stick a couple dollars in the boot for to help neuromuscular diseases. So it's a great time for us. A lot of good times out there, the landing and around the stadium, and it's just everybody seems to open up their checkbooks to the children. So we got another call line to Hayes from Arlington. You got a question for us?
Yeah, well, actually, I have a comment.
Okay.
But thank you for taking my call.
Sure. Something about hostages?
No, I'm an anti-union guy.
Oh, okay.
So
wonderful. We've been looking for your call all afternoon. Go ahead.
No, I don't know all the details of readjusting and manipulating your pensions and everything like that. But as somebody who works in the private sector, you put money towards your IRA, and then if you work for a good company, they will match a percentage or whatever the case may be. Mm-hmm. I think the firefighters and the police force, they really hold the city hostage. And I don't use that in a totally negative way, because you guys do great service.
Right.
You can negotiate with the city and kind of pretty much get your way.
That's not true. With any negotiation, there's a point where you sit across the table from one another. Here's our issues, here's the city issues, and normally we come to the middle of where it's beneficial for the city and also beneficial for the workers, for the firefighters, or any city employee. So to hold hostage, there's never a point when any benefit that we get that we have somehow figured out a way to get it without, first off, council approval, and secondly, mayoral approval, because he does have a veto. So it's really more about being in tune to the facts of an argument and not necessarily rhetoric. And if somebody's saying, they get all these things, again, I stress that you go to truthaboutpensions.net and really look hard at the facts about our pension and the promises that are made, and all we ask is the promises be kept. And that I take aside the fact of that we hold somebody hostage. It's we ain't got any guns. Cops got the guns. We don't have any guns. We're not keeping anybody hostage. So, any of y'all have a comment about that?
Yeah, Randy. We've heard this. First of all, the police and fire pension, as it is configured, originated in 1915, was recodified in 1936, with no union involvement. It's the pension that the city designed and built, and prior to the recession, it was in fact less expensive for the city than were the investment types, defined contributions. Certainly, having us under Social Security would also, you'd have to pay that in some part of an IRA or a 401c3 or a 401k or whatever people have. They're not necessarily less expensive. They work better for some employment than do a defined benefit plan. There are, in fact, still many major employers right here in Jacksonville who also have defined benefit plans. We've just not made a point to compare or publicize their plans. But up until this recession, cities viewed pensions as being a recruitment tool. And I might add, this is America's 14th busiest fire department. It's about 178th in the salary survey. So the perception of either collective bargaining power or even political power is very much tempered by being here in a pretty conservative city with a strong mayor and a strong, powerful city council.
Yeah, it's the firefighters, police officers with the Police and Fire Pension Fund contribute 7% of their salary. 65% of the funding of the fund comes from actual investments. So it's not a lot coming from the city. Mark?
I want to thank Mr. Hayes for calling, but one thing I think Mr. Hayes touched on is the unions and the pension. What I think the public needs to understand a little bit better is that, yes, there is a fire union over here and there's a police union over here, but there is an independent pension board and they have trustees, and it is their job to manage the pension. A lot of people think we just jump in the union truck and go down and fix the pension and go back to the union office, and that's not really the case. Right. We do, well, yes, we are members of the pension fund. We do not administer, we do not run the pension fund. It is an independent, it's actually a city agency, the Police and Fire Pension Fund.
Exactly right. Yeah.
That has a trustee and a chairman, and they do all the work. 5
trustees on there, 1 police officer, 1 firefighter, another 3 are private citizens. We have a couple investment bankers, and actually the Sheriff Nat Glover is a trustee. So it's not something that we can go down there and manipulate, and everything that is done with that pension fund is done through council approval. And so it's again, when you get to the facts, Hayes, when you get down and drill down into the facts of it, the argument changes a little bit. So we appreciate your call, Hayes. Again, if you have a question or a comment, number's 904-854-1320. That's 600 WBOB. We appreciate any calls. And, Hayes, we've been looking for that call all afternoon, so we appreciate you calling. Again, I steer you to that truthaboutpensions.net. That'll definitely lay everything out. And our website, www.jfrd.com, talks about our charities and things like that. So remember, coming around on Florida Georgia weekend, which I believe is October 27th, 28th, somewhere around there. We'll be out with the boots on the corner again, trying to help MDA. So hopefully y'all will step up to the plate and help us with one of our biggest charities. We also firefighters also have a large hall over on Stockton and I-10. Everybody knows where the tower is, 6-story tower, training tower for the old training academy. That's where our office is, and across the street we have a hall. So we use that for a lot of our charitable stuff, and it's also able to be rented. So if you ever have the need for a large 300-seat hall, it's there for you. We have another call. Mark from Orange Park, you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just about how Republicans tend to demonize unions as being so powerful, and without realizing that they serve a purpose, the check and balance, our whole form of government, there's always a check and balance of power. And it's just a balance of the corporation power, or in the case of city government, the city government's power over the employees.
Yeah, you're right. Unions were, Larry, talk on that.
Well, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Randy. Yeah. I know you were going to answer that. On Laura Ingram's show just before us, she was speaking of a couple of airlines that she liked, and somebody had a problem with one of them, and Laura made the point there are bad apples in every bunch, and certainly anybody that's studied labor history and endeavors to work at a union knows that there have been abuses, but there's also been some very, very good things done by them.
Yeah, and, labor unions are also a lot to do with safety, the safety of the worker. If we didn't have these unions calling some of this stuff into check, it's the workman's comp issues would go up. I know firefighters, it's an inherently dangerous job, so there's a lot of injuries with that, but this city has done a good job of safety gear, equipment, things like that, and the union has a lot of push with that to making sure that things are done safely and that we get to go home the next day to our families. So labor is a very important part of any business, and we are a lot of the nuts and bolts of what happens. So again, we'll be back in just a minute. Another call. If you want to give us a call, 854-1320. Thank you.
I have a question. Who handles the plumbing?
Hey, welcome back. My name is Randy Wise, president of Jacksonville Association of Firefighters, filling in for Chuck and Colleen today. I think they'll be back Wednesday. So if you want to tune in, I'm not 100% certain, but I think our supervisor of elections will be hosting the show either tomorrow or the next day. So Jerry Holland. So that'll be a good, interesting time.
Well, actually, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
All right. This is AJ just stepping in a second. Yeah. Randy, I think Rick Mullaney is scheduled tomorrow.
Oh, good. Rick Mullaney.
So we'll hear from Rick, and he's got some great knowledge, and I'm sure he'll attract a few calls.
Oh, yeah. Our past general counsel and mayoral candidate. One speaking of with Mark. Who was it that was calling about who said he was anti-union? That was the ex-general
counsel. Wasn't it Hayes?
Was that Hayes? Yeah, Hayes. He Mr. Mullaney did not want any union endorsement. Felt like that it would handcuff him and some of the stuff he needed to do. So we never got the opportunity to talk to him. But that tactic, it's some people said, "Oh, what do you think about that? Is that good or bad?" That's some people have a perceived way of what labor's about, and that he felt like, I guess the guy said we were holding them hostage. Maybe Rick thought the same thing, but I'll be sure and listen tomorrow. It might be one of the call-ins tomorrow. It might be interesting. All right. So, thanks for that correction. So I know Jerry's been here before, and he's always good at it. He's a good friend of the firefighters. So, but again, call in Wednesday. Next Wednesday they'll be back. If you have a question for us today, though, the number's 904-854-1320. That's Talk Radio 600 WBOB. I think we had one from Jim, but he hung up. So, Larry, I think you're leaving town tomorrow, aren't you? Where are you going tomorrow?
You're going to Memphis for a conference for committee meetings.
Oh, okay. Again, Larry is our 12th District Vice President for the International Association of Firefighters. What does that cover? What's the 12th District cover?
12th District is North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and the Caribbean.
Oh, how often do you go to the Caribbean?
Never.
That'd seem like that'd be a good one to go to.
Very few problems, believe it or not. Very laid back citizens and firefighters, apparently.
So it is a different world. And I think Chuck and Colleen are actually in the Keys. Maybe they can wave across there. They can almost see it across the way there. So, but Larry had the, I guess not an opportunity, but a very difficult time when he first became a 12th District Vice President. He's talking about South Carolina when Charlotte. Charleston. There was a fire that we lost several brothers that he was having right in the middle of, and I think we've got that department going a little bit in a better direction. If you're talking again back to labor and making things better, you want to touch on that?
Well, a good department, and toward Hayes's remarks, what sort of have fallen out of the debate over the last 15 or so years is the effect of firefighter staffing, stations, and equipment on insurance rates. That used to be something that public officials, fire officials.
What is that? Isn't there some three-letter?
ISO, Insurance Services Organization, which rates cities. And what we've seen happen in the last few years, despite the problems of the recession, and it can be very tempting in the short term for a mayor or a city or a county to reduce fire protection, inevitably, and we've already seen it here in Duval County in the little township of Baldwin, where when you reduce the protection, the insurance rates go up, and they generally, even just a few ratings from, say, a 4 to a 6 or 8 or 7 can raise the insurance rates on a property, even a residential property, far more than any tax would have been. And that's kind of has just really fallen out of the debate and dialogue about fire departments over many years.
I think that I know ISO was just in town. I think the last time, 1974, I believe was the last time ISO actually came in and did a rating. So it's going to be a good question or good information to find out when that rating comes out. I always remember I've owned a couple of homes in my short time, and the first question you always get when you call for a homeowners association, they say, "Where's the closest fire station?" or how far away from your house, and that's directly related to that ISO rating. So it's will be very interesting to see if that actually will affect. And it's Mark, I know you've looked into the tax part of it, of the difference between if. Again, back to Hayes' comment about us holding hostage and raising taxes to fund our pensions. That's the rhetoric out there. And as Larry brought up a very good point, if you got rid of all of it, it's about 10% of the budget. So it really isn't a large portion of it. But if your health insurance your property insurance goes up, it's going to affect it too, right? I mean, then you see that impact to the citizens.
Yeah, absolutely. We had figured it out about a year ago. We were in negotiations and trying to figure all the price on everything. That the average home pays $60 a year for everything: the fire department, the firefighters, the fire trucks, the equipment on the trucks, the pension, everything. It boiled down to rescue as well, EMS services as well. $60 a household.
Yep. Yeah, it's that's another part of it. We talk about the fire service and fire trucks, things like that. But a big portion of this city's fire department is also the rescues, Jacksonville Fire and Rescue Department, and it's EMS response. Actually, we were probably the first city to actually get into EMS business back in 1969, Larry, right?
67, Mayor Tanzler.
Yeah, Mayor Tanzler. For those listeners that have a little bit of time on us, back then it was funeral homes running place to place, basically fighting over patients, and Mayor Tanzler, and also I think with City Council Jake Godbold at that time decided that we were going to go into business. And give it a little history of that. How did that work?
Well, it was just a very bold move. The private services, they literally went on strike asking for a city subsidy, and Mayor Tanzler said, no, we're going to create an organized system. And he had done some research, and Councilman Godbold, as you point out at that time, did some research and found there were a better way, and you could save more lives and prevent some injuries from becoming worse, even life-threatening, with a true emergency medical system. So it was a real cutting-edge thing for Jacksonville when they did it, and it got us a lot of national attention.
I think I remember, Mark, I know has some good comments on it, but was there not a point where I think the mayor looked at then Chief Dowling, who's basically the grandfather of EMS, and he looked at him and said, "How quickly can we do this?" He said, "Within the hour."
Yeah, and so that's a true statement.
Yeah, that they had actually got it set up to. Mark, you had a little history on it.
Yeah, going back to the two topics we've talked about since we came back from the break, I believe the Jacksonville Fire Museum has a website, jacksonvillefiremuseum.com, and it's got a history of the breakdown of how EMS service started in the city, as well as a video, Sirens in the Night, the 1972, I think it was Channel 12 documentary, about how Jacksonville was really proactive and was a front runner nationwide in the formation of EMS. And also going back to Larry's comments about the staffing in Charleston, the firefighters have a YouTube channel, and on the YouTube channel you can go to our channel, JAFF122, and you can see we have video studies on reduction of staffing and how it takes that much longer to put a fire out in your house.
Actually, there's also some EMS studies coming out about emergency response to medical emergencies, and Larry's a big part of that coming out of the International that shows that, used to be two firefighters or whoever they may be show up and trying to do CPR on someone, and one of them still got to drive to the hospital. So it's very labor intensive, takes a big toll on your body. And we talk about back to some of Hayes' points of pensions and holding them hostage. That's part of the deal when you sign up. This is what you get, and realize that you have a 20-year career. Put some limits on how long you can work. Some of the benefits we have limit, basically, you have to leave at a certain amount of time. And that way you don't have a 70-year-old individual crawling around in these houses looking for somebody or trying to do CPR on someone. So, we can have some of the biggest studs we got out there doing CPR on somebody for, about 4 or 5 minutes, and they're done. I mean, it is literally very intensive when it comes to it. So it is very tough on a person's body to be in a career this long.
And with that in mind, one of the number one questions we get in the field when we're out there is, why does a fire engine come when I have a medical problem? That's because every fire engine in the city, no matter who's on it, is at least EMT qualified. There's defibrillators and at least baseline medical equipment to at least start the process of helping you feel better. A lot of people don't understand that come the budget time, and when things need to be cut, they're like, "Well, just cut the fire engine," and they don't understand it's part of a tiered response for EMS.
I've been asked that question several times in my travels of what difference do you make if it's another 3-minute added response time? What difference could that make? And kind of coyly I ask, well, hold your breath for 3 minutes.
Pure physical science.
So, yeah, absolutely. It's oxygenated blood to the brain, and
pure physical science.
Absolutely, it's
and it takes a lot of hands for proper trauma care at multi-vehicle accidents and extrications, removing people from these cars. It takes a lot of people, and you don't have time to go out there and just decide, well, oh gee, I wish they'd have been here. You need them when you need them.
That's right. And it's that's probably not a large percentage of the population actually use a fire rescue department. It's I'd be curious to see how many calls we do to a certain part of the citizenry. So it's difficult at times. I've never called them, but when you call them, you want them to be there in a hurry. And it's I've been in my time in the field, I've had many times where people would say, "Golly, you got here quick." We try to keep that response time down to under 4 minutes. So and that's a big part of that ISO ratings that's coming out. So again, our time's about up. Wanted to thank y'all for definitely thank Chuck and Colleen for the opportunity of coming in. Thank my two brothers here, great friends of mine that are able to, a lot of wealth of knowledge. Thank you for the calls, and hopefully we didn't do too bad a job. Hopefully Chuck and Colleen will have us come back. So
you guys did great. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, sir.
Larry, Mark, and thank you for what you do. We appreciate that here in the large city of Jacksonville. In square mileage wise, right?
The largest in the continent of the United States. That's right.
Hello, Mark Cordell here.